Welcome to Season 4 of You're Not Alone with Townsend. On this podcast, I'll be sitting down with guests from all over the world to discuss everything under the umbrella of mental health, diagnoses, sharing stories of resilience, medical advice, and even getting some tips and tricks from licensed counselors. The goal of this podcast is to teach us how to understand others, ourselves, and help spread love and light, one episode at a time. Please make sure to like and follow this podcast, and if you'd like to see the videos of these conversations, hop on over to my YouTube channel, TownsendTmusic YouTube, where you can find the podcast and my latest music. This podcast is run solely by supporters and listeners just like you. So if you'd like to help keep this podcast and project going, please consider hopping on patreon.com/TownsendTmusic to be part of the team. You'll also find extra content and questions with each and every guest. Let's hop in. What is up, everybody? Welcome to this episode of You're Not Alone with Townsend. Today, we're going to be chatting about Down syndrome. I'm sure you've heard of it. I'm sure you know someone with that diagnosis or someone with a child with that diagnosis. It's incredibly common. I feel like we hear about it all the time. I've actually discussed this with a mother of a child with Down syndrome, but today, I'm so excited. We're going to be chatting with my friend Matthew Schwab. He has had this diagnosis and is so open on his social media accounts and talks about it all the time and is just one of the nicest people. We met a little bit before we hopped on here. Matthew, thank you so much for joining us.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, you are just so kind and I love it so much.
Thanks.
I feel like your mom and you post on social media and you're just always smiling and having a good time.
Yes.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Matthew, I like to let my guests kind of introduce themselves. So who is Matthew? What's your age? Where are you? Do you have a job?
Oh, of course. So I'm Matthew Schwab. I'm 27 years old, and I live in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. And the reason behind that is because I live closer to my fiance.
Beyonce.
Yeah, lives
Ooh.
yeah.
Okay. I love it.
So she and I can work on our independence together.
How wonderful. Now you have your own apartment, right?
Yes, with support.
I love that so much. Amazing. How far did you move to be closer to her? Where were you?
I have lived my entire life in the Raleigh area in the state.
Wow. That's a big move, Matthew.
Yeah, so half hour move.
I love it so much. Well, congratulations.
Thanks.
That's so exciting. I know that everybody is proud of you, and you're probably real proud of yourself.
Yes, I am really proud of myself too.
I love that. Now, you were just talking about you've got a job too, right?
Yes, I work at a place called Town Hall Grill, and for those who don't know, Town Hall Grill is you probably know the company Town Hall Burger and Grill,
Okay.
which is the company.
I love it. So
But
you,
Town Hall Grill is a great place. I work there as a host.
I love it so much. I love it. Are you enjoying it?
I love it. I've
Yes.
spent so many years in food service.
Oh,
My first job was Chick-fil-A, and I was 16 when I first got my first job.
yeah. So you've been doing it for a while.
Yes.
Good for you. I love it. Okay, well, we're going to go ahead and hop in. Like I was telling everybody, Matthew's really open about his diagnosis of Down syndrome, and I want to define that for people. Are you able to tell us what is Down syndrome exactly?
Of course. But Down syndrome is the most common genetic condition. One out of 725 babies born in the US has Down syndrome. There are three types of Down syndrome. Two of them are the least common types, but the most common one, which is the one I have, trisomy 21, which only affects the 21st chromosome because everyone has uh, two 21st chromosomes, but for people with Down syndrome, they end up having a third copy of chromosome 21. So instead of the normal 46 chromosomes, we have 47 chromosomes.
Matthew, that was such a good job explaining that. I
Thank you.
couldn't explain it better myself. Trisomy 21. So you're born with an extra chromosome, and that's it. That's it.
Yes.
Yeah, it's simple, easy peasy. Now, you said Down syndrome is pretty common. You said one in every 725?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's a lot. And I think I read somewhere where it's that ends up being like over 200,000 cases a year, which is so much. Now, you said it's hereditary, right?
Mo-
Or
oh,
genetic.
So mostly it's not,
Okay.
but there's one type I believe is mosaicism, which is the least common type of Down syndrome because there is translocation and there's mosaicism. So I think it's actually yeah, mosaic is can be hereditary.
Okay. Okay. So it's a genetic syndrome, but only one of them really is hereditary. So it has to do with your genetic makeup, basically.
I mean, it also depends on the type of Down syndrome.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. So what are some common things that go along with this diagnosis? So what are some things that it may affect?
Now, a quick shout out to our sponsors.
If you're looking to buy or sell, I have the perfect realty company for you. Clark & Co. Realty is located in the Benton, Bryant, Arkansas area. And they understand that buying or selling a home is more than just a transaction. It's a life-changing experience. That's why their team of highly seasoned real estate professionals is dedicated to providing exceptional, personalized services for all their clients. They truly take great pride in the relationships they build, and they always work relentlessly on the client's behalf to help them achieve their perfect real estate goals. They always have the client in mind, and I can speak firsthand when I say how reliable, trustworthy, and quick they were. When I was looking to buy my first home, they were there with me every step of the way, answering every question I could think of. They showed me a great amount of knowledge and patience through the process. It's no wonder they've won so many awards for their outstanding services and their excellent relationships with clients. So if you're looking to buy or sell, there is no better option than Clark & Co. Realty. This is one organization I'm crazy about. Heroes Behind the Line is a nonprofit organization established to help first responders with their mental well-being. They help provide education, outreach, advocacy, and even treatment for firefighters, police, emergency medical personnel, and veterans who just need mental health support. It was started in 2018, and their goal is to help these first responders get the benefits they deserve and receive continued treatment. We all know that these first responders deserve the highest professional standards, confidentiality, and respect, and that's exactly what this team strives to do. Their donations and every penny earned go straight back to this project, so hop on their website, heroesbehindtheline.org, snag some coffee or t-shirts or more, help support this organization. They are amazing.
Down syndrome affects many aspects. So there are two ways. There's the mentality and the physicality. The mentality is different because people with Down syndrome always have some level of cognitive delay. That's why it takes people with Down syndrome longer to do things and and to learn things because and there's always a lot more learning curves.
Yeah.
There's that the mentality part, which is that, and the physicality part is just obviously the stuff you can see on the outside. Like we have shorter than normal statures. Like we have short statures, almond-shaped eyes, small hands, broad palms, smaller than average arms and and legs, and we also have low muscle tone, and and 50% of people who have Down syndrome have heart defects.
Interesting.
So when doctors say there's a defect, that does not mm, instantly mean Down syndrome. It means that Down syndrome could be a possibility.
Okay, very interesting. What did this look like growing up for you? Did you have to have speech therapy or physical therapy?
Oh, so back into memory lane because m- I used to have I had all I believe all the therapies. There was one time when I was very young. I believe when I was a baby. My mom still, Michelle Schwab, still remembers me having therapies every day because like one therapy of a week kind of thing. And I
Woo.
4 therapies at a time. I think I've done a total of 5 therapies. In my life, I've done physical therapy, speech therapy, feeding therapy, occupational therapy, and hippotherapy.
Wow, that is a lot. Now, did you enjoy those things or did you ever think this is so much to do?
I didn't think much back then,
Yeah.
but but when I remember all the stuff that I do remember of those stuff, I do think it was hard work, but it's just one part of my life that I just love thinking about.
Yeah, absolutely. It obviously worked well for you. You were incredibly high functioning. I mean, you talked about you're living in an apartment, you've moved to be closer to your fiance. That's amazing.
Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Now,
And
Matthew,
not to mention, I also have a business.
no kidding. Tell us about it. What you got?
All right, so it's Matthew Schwab Speaks. Matthew Schwab Speaks is my public speaking business. I started the business to help change the way the world sees Down syndrome. Basically, my business allows me to educate, inspire, and oh, and I reached many different crowds of people from schools to Down syndrome associations and all across the country, and it's so wonderful. And my website is MatthewSchwabSpeaks.com.
Amazing. That is why you're so good at this. You've had practice.
Yes.
That's amazing. Matthew, that is so cool. I love it so much. And that's kind of what my business is too. I interview people like yourself and we talk about all these different topics because I want to help share awareness and spread love and joy, kind of like you do. So I appreciate you doing that so much.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, that's so cool. You'll have to keep me updated on all your adventures. I bet you do some cool stuff.
Oh yes, through my business, I'm able to go to different states that I have not been before in my entire life. Like just to name a few, New Orleans, South Dakota, which actually a Down syndrome association hired me to speak 6 months ago, and another Down syndrome association in the same area that I spoke in South Dakota, and 6 months later, reached out for me to go back there.
That's amazing. You must have done amazingly well. I know you did. That is so cool.
Because
Now, does your mom go with you? Does Michelle go with you?
not all the time because it is a family effort. It's my mom, Michelle Schwab, and my father, Robert Schwab.
Gotcha. I gotcha. Okay. Now I know she's super involved with your social media and all of those things.
Oh yes, so I think I'm approaching 30,000 followers.
Woo. Goodness. How cool. How
I
cool.
believe I have more than Gigi's Playhouse National.
How cool. That's amazing. Amazing. Matthew, you talk about Down syndrome all the time, and obviously you've lived with it for 27 years. What do you wish people knew about Down syndrome?
I just wished that that Down syndrome should be the norm.
Yeah,
But that is one of the ugly truths about today's society is that it is not the norm. And when it is, and and which is, I understand it is hard to see it that way, but we gotta find ways to make it easy for the people with Down syndrome to live their lives, not just to be tolerated in their communities, but for them to be truly accepted in their communities.
that is so good. I love it. I love it. So sometimes parents, I feel like they're worried because they don't know what Down syndrome is. Can you tell them what it's like to live with Down syndrome?
Yeah, and that's also it also depends on how young their child is because if it's a younger child of this generation, they do not know what Down syndrome is. I mean they do, but they only see the today's version of Down syndrome.
Right.
Like for my mom and dad, Michelle Schwab and Robert Schwab, the only Down syndrome they knew before I was born was the ugly truths, the misconceptions, and the way outdate Down syndrome that the doctors keep telling patients
That's
in
exactly right.
like the 1990s and much earlier, and that's not mm, good. And I think that's one thing that I would like to see happen is to for us to create our own narrative and not feed off the narratives from 20 years ago, my lifetime ago or earlier. I
Ab-
don't want that at all.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, what is it like growing up with Down syndrome? I mean, do you feel like a normal kid going to school? Does everybody treat you differently?
And I mean, initially, no. Down syndrome is just part of my life. So I just thought my life was normal. And it was great. And it's still, even to this very day, I am proud to have Down syndrome because without me having Down syndrome, I believe I remember my mom telling me that I have two younger brothers, so I'm oldest of three. So my she told my brothers when they were young, hey, what do you think of Matthew having Down syndrome? And they just think, oh, he's just my brother, and that kind of thing. And when mom asked me, do you want to get rid of Down syndrome? And then and mom just remembers me saying that without my Down syndrome, but I'll not have all the stuff I have in my life. Like I would have no fiance, no no connections to Jesus Playhouse, all that stuff. I would have nothing of the sort. And I'm happy of the life that Down syndrome has blessed me with.
Man, how amazing. How amazing. Matthew, I appreciate you joining us. You were just so positive. I love it. I love it. It has been such a pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So, before we close out, do you have any advice for anyone else that maybe has Down syndrome?
I have a lots of advice, and it's like no matter you have, no matter so advocate for yourself
Good one.
and for others. Be patient only because that people with Down syndrome do things differently and it takes longer for them to do stuff. So people with Down syndrome would need to be patient with their own lives. um, Give them promises of a bright future. And and also, I do have a advice for parents: do not fear and do not fall victim to the old 1990s or earlier the narrative of that and quick find ways to to research what the diagnosis is, and make sure your child has a healthy life, and make sure push them and guide them to independent life.
I love that so much. I think you're the perfect example of how people with this diagnosis can still live a full and wonderful and happy life. And this diagnosis isn't the end of the world like some people think, you know?
That's how I used to think freshman year, the same narrative as all those years ago, because when I was a freshman in high school,
Yeah.
and that was like 2013, 2012, 2013 school year, and gosh, and I was like, that was the only year that was hard and tough for me, because that was when I truly realized how my syndrome affected me. Because at that time, I had friends that were either pursuing or about to pursue a higher level of education, already having a boyfriend and girlfriend, and driving. And I felt separate from that because I didn't have any of those. I was not in a romantic relationship in my freshman year. I I I met today's fiance, Lucia Romano, when we were baby in the early months of '98, and I only started dating her only unofficially a year later in my sophomore year.
That's amazing. Things worked out how they should.
Yes.
I love it. And you're happy as can be?
Yes, I told myself back then, the freshman year, you had your low, so mm, just persevere and live your life. Do not fall. Don't fear your life. Make your life the life you want.
I love it. We could all use that advice. Heck. I
Yeah,
love it. I love it. Matthew, thank you so much for joining us. It has been such a pleasure.
you're very welcome, Townsend. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so everybody listening, you know how this works. Matthew and I are going to keep chatting. We're going to do some extra questions that I do with every guest. If you want to hear those, hop on to patreon.com/TownsendTmusic. You can also watch this interview on YouTube if you go to TownsendTmusic YouTube. If not, we will catch you next time.
If you'd like to hear the rest of this interview, visit patreon.com/TownsendTmusic. And don't forget, you can also watch the interviews on our YouTube channel at TownsendTmusic YouTube.